Hi, everybody. We're very, very glad to see you here. I think it's been 3 years since we get this global conference. And good to be here in the new home, Vilnius. I'm going to tell you something today about a situation that we all face today regarding the increase of the fuel prices, which has been accelerating over the last 6 months. If we talk about Dubai, particularly, the fuel prices in Dubai has increased 80%. 80%. So if any of your client is operating any sort of operation and they have budgeted about 1 million dirham or $1 million for the fuel of that operation, today their budget has inflated to 1.8 million dirham. So 800,000 extra, or 80% extra. For many of our clients, this is a serious consequences that they need to look into to mitigate the risk of the fuel inflation and in order to prevent it from getting into their revenue or their gross margin, because 80% is much more than any gross margin I think any of you is making as of today. So I'm going to talk to you today about fuel economy. And, this has been over the last 10 years, at least, or 11 years, since we started Wialon. It has been a sort of nice to have some stuff. Nice cars and new fuel and stuff like that and analysis. But it has come to a point, it's a must-have. It's very crucial to maintain your gross margin or your client gross margin. It's very crucial for the environment. It's very crucial on many other aspects. So when we look at the heat map of any fleet unit from our client perspective, we see that normally there will be a specific amount which is approximately 16% for leasing of the unit if the unit is not owned by our client, and then there will be about 43% for the driver. Then again, there are costs like fuel, 22%, maintenance, 10%, insurance, 4%, tires, 2%, toll, 2%, permits, 1%. And this keep on plus and minus from region to region. But those are like sort of standards. So if we eliminate the drivers and cost of lease, the rest somehow we could manage or optimize through the technology and through the features that Wialon is bringing today and specific process, we could help our client increase the value of the solution that we're offering to them. So based on that, if we look at this chart simply, it has like engine hours, the blue ones, then we have got like the stops and the trips. And we see now many of the stops which has the red lines, the driver did not switch off the engine. So basically he's running on the idle, he is consuming fuel, he's consuming engine hours and other stuff. And how could we eliminate those small red intervals? Because it accumulates. So if it accumulates, having a 15-minute a day, this will cost about 2 years back in Dubai. It will cost about 2 dirham per vehicle or per unit. Today it costs 5 dirham. And I intended not to update this to give you the freedom to check the magnitude based on the inflation of the fuel prices in your respective countries. So for us, this client was budgeting for 2 dirham for a 15 minutes idle. Today, it has increased to a 5 dirham. And then when we look at 600 cars for 15 minutes, this is about 1,200 dirham a day. And then looking at 600 cars for 22 days a month, we're talking about 26,000 dirhams. And for the whole year, for like 600 cars, it's 316,000 dirhams. This is only for 15 minutes of idle a day. And 15 minutes, it's easily distributed in 3 or 5 traffic lights. It's just like 2 minutes in this traffic light, then another 2 minutes in this so this is nothing. We have got clients who have 50% of their engine hour as idle. 50%. Now, when we tell them about the amount of money that they are losing just evaporating on the air, like it's he spent like 3 million, and we tell him, you know what, 1.5 million is just evaporating. He said, no, this is not possible, you know what? Tell them, okay, this is your POC, this is your data, we can drill down up to specific unit, and we show you. But because it's very granular, they do not anticipate it accumulating and bringing that figure end of the day. So what could be done about it? Now, looking at 6 months of analysis for one of the clients, we find that on idling, they spend 224,000 dirhams on maintenance because engine hour is running. Oil is consumed, consumables and others. This is also not to be neglected, 153,000 and 50,000 for depreciation, let's see. Then this is the client who has almost 50% of an idle time. He has 99,000 engine hours. And guess what? His idle is 46,000 hours of idle. So if this guy spent 5 million on fuel, 2.5 million is just evaporating. So this is a problem. Identifying the problem will enable our client to understand the value that they could gain from the solution, and will prevent them from negotiating, on the unit level or stuff like that. I've been telling some of the Wialon fellows how you could sell 100 units for $1 million a year. Interesting questions. By appreciating and enhancing the value that you bring into the client. We've been with Wialon for 11 years. We don't have many thousands of devices. But we follow a strategy to leverage each and every unit to maximize the value out of that, and that works with a specific niche. So looking at these guys here, they had 46% of idle time. We work on a strategy with them to reduce that by 17%. So we're not going to reclaim the whole 46% because that's a bit far-fetched, but let's do a 17% in a year. Now, by doing this 17%, we've reduced their fuel expense from 2 million to 1.7 million. Now, that 329,000 is much more than what they pay us in a year. They could pay us 60,000 in a year or whatever, but they're getting a lot of value out of that. When we look at the maintenance as well, we managed to reduce it from 726 to 463,000, saving them another 262,000 in maintenance. I like very much the presentation Khoshinov was presenting to us yesterday. It's like everybody after COVID, he would like to start from the bottom line. Nobody interested very much into the technology and whatever and the features and stuff like that. Everybody is like, bottom line. Bottom line. What is my KPIs? Is it client acquisition? Is it client retention? Is it cost optimization? Is it, performance? And then after that, tell them, you could use this and that in the technology and whatever, because focusing on the niche and their problem, it tends to be more stronger than focusing on the product. All of us, we used to use taxis and we used to go to the restaurants or whatever, and now we're using Uber, we're using kick scooters and we're using stuff. The niche problem is to move from point A to point B, regardless of the mechanism or the product. So if we take this strategy, we always future-proof in terms of technology changes or product changes or whatever. We always possible for us to adapt. So right now, when we're talking to clients, if you come to a client and you tell him, okay, I have Gibbons Fragen and it has features and nice and it's a lot of blah, 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 blah. But if you tell him, okay, let me show you how you can reduce 20%, 30% of your cost, he will listen immediately. And then you go into, sort of BOC, whatever. Always we tend to do BOC with their own data because the results are shocking. So sometimes they don't like it, especially operation people, because it's like, what are you guys doing? So here, when it's related to their own data, it's really interesting. Now, regarding the depreciation as well, we could do also. Depreciation is accounting stuff, sort of has different methodology based on 3 years, 5 years, but this is what we have estimated. Another factor is that many of the organizations today, they are looking for corporate car sharing. They are looking for other alternative models. Me personally, before the pandemic, I used to commute 3,000 kilometers a month. Then when it was really like lockdown and stuff like that, we went down to 800 a month, 800 kilometers a month. And then now it's average 1,200 kilometers a month. And this is happening to many other organizations. So at least in Dubai, if we look at a parking lot for any large enterprises like telecom operators or whatever, we see a lot of cars that are just idling there. Because basically if they are doing 4 or 5 meetings earlier, they're doing 3 of them in Zoom. So they do not move. When we estimated for this client, we find only 13% of the 24 hours time is used. The engine is on only for 13%. So they pay a full lease, let's say a 1,000 dirham, and they are getting a value of 130 dirham only. This is engine on. Then when we look at this 13%, we find 46% of it is idle. So they're only getting 54% out of a 13% out of their lease for the whole month. So that's a very minute figure. Then we could introduce, corporate car sharing, corporate, ride hailing. So to make sure that their vehicles, which are leased in an annual basis, those vehicles are being utilized more. This is another element to do optimization, and it's very much related to the fuel economy. What if from 13% we increase it to 30%? So every 2 guys or 3 guys are using the same car, but they have a mechanism to book. I have an outdoor meeting, outdoor sales meeting. So I book in the morning this guy, in the evening this guy. How much saving that we could generate for our clients? Now, maybe this is not the case for many other countries, but for us, transport industry in the Middle East, it's not a sophisticated industry. It's still way behind in terms of digital transportation. So as experts who can give them some sort of advice, these are areas where we can really help them, and we turn from being a vendor to being a consultant. That they call you and they tell you, okay, we have this issue, our client have this issue, how we can do about this issue, and stuff like that. And I think this is very important in customer retention. Again, out of the 30%, if we increase the motion to 90%, and we decrease the idling to 10%. So even if we have corporate car sharing, the guys will not be the guys, like if the driver is taking somebody to a meeting, we make sure that he does not switch the engine and sleep in the car. Now, in Dubai it's very hot. It's very common to get into any parking, and you find drivers, they put in the car on, AC is on, and he's just sleeping for 2-3 hours till his boss finish the meeting, and then he'll come. That's about, how many, like 4 liters per hour. You're talking about 16 liters by that specific segment. Another thing is the speed. Speed also is very much related to the fuel consumption. And we see now for this client, for example, we're talking about almost 6,000 speed violation for this client. And regardless of the cost of these violations, if it has been caught, every violation has been caught, we see now the speed also contribute into a higher fuel consumption. As we see now, speed violation 6,500, kilometers 1.2 million, and engine hours 99,000 hours. So how could we utilize those metrics together into improving the fuel economy? And driver behavior is an important element here. It's a very important element. That's why if you get the driver behavior right, you will also get into the economy mood in most of the time, not like acceleration, deceleration, you get into economy mood. And in some cars, this can save up to 40% of the fuel consumption. This is some of the analysis, we've done for some of the clients. If hypothetically, we are selling a specific unit per month for 50 dirhams or $50 or whatever. Now, what they are getting, what they are losing in fuel, it's like 500 or 600 or 700 from that month only. So they're getting 10 times what they are paying for, just because they have followed up this strategy. And then, we utilize some tool. We've got a fuel module in which integrated with some of the fuel provider that can get you the fuel files in. If you're using CAN bus, then you can get it from the CAN bus and different methodologies. So if you are not having a CAN bus or you're not able to get a fuel sensor hooked into the device, you can just import and export the fuel file that you get, and then through that you will be able to look at telematics from bottom line point of view. It's very nice to have, how many like hours and how many, engine hours or idle or whatever. But when it's turned into money, then we will pay much more attention, especially, clients who are looking to optimize. So this is my presentation for today. And I thank you very much for the opportunity, and glad to be there with you. If anybody has any question, we'll be able to address.